Hey, deserved listeners, it's time to continue watching Danielle and Mohamed on 90 Day Fiancé. Let's watch.
Be with me, but as we kept going into the marriage, things started changing.
People they are saying I have girlfriends and that stuff. That's wrong. I have no girlfriends.
I trust you.
Okay then, if you believe me, just stay away from the drama and let us have a normal life.
So apparently something came out where he was being accused of cheating on her, and he says it didn't never happen, and Danielle trusts him. So I wonder what happened there.
Okay.
I gave him the benefit of the doubt, but my family insisted he was taking advantage of me.
He is a piece of We're working through the issues.
You can't work on it when he's screwing other people.
She keeps saying that phrase, we're working on the issues, we're working on the issues. I think with other couples, they mean that, but I don't know if Danielle means what she's saying. I think what she's saying, we're working on the issues, I think for her, it's her way of deflecting. It's her way of saying, everything's fine, back off, or I don't want to think about this because I need this relationship too much. I'm not quite sure, though, because I don't hear them working on things. They haven't, at least on camera, they haven't really had an adult-like conversation, which isn't uncommon for this show. But, and maybe they're happening behind closed doors, but let's continue watching.
So this week on social media, one of the ladies posted that she's pregnant by Mohamed.
Mohamed got his green card 14 months after the marriage. He split 2 months after that. I have no idea where Mohamed is right now.
Interesting. So he got his green card, and then he split. He abandoned her. He just left her. So that's upsetting. Now, we don't know what happened. Maybe he'll provide an explanation, or maybe this is the result of what at least I was hypothesizing. I mean, there's always that hypothesis as to whether or not there's some sort of scam going on. But with this one, I've never with a couple thought so strongly that something nefarious was happening. I still don't know. Maybe there is an explanation, and we'll find out.
He lied.
Of course he lied. He's been lying.
I don't know what's going on. I'm hoping that it's just a phase and that he'll come back after he cools off.
Interesting way of putting it. So she's hoping that it's just a phase, that once he got the green card, he skipped town or left her. That it's, what would the phase be? What sort of temporary motivation would be there? Now, of course, that's what Danielle is going to hope for, because she really wants this relationship to work. Now, maybe it will, but it's not looking good.
My name is Mohamed. I am 28 years old. I came to this country 2 years ago from Tunisia to be with Danielle and start a life together. Danielle made a lot of promises, and she said our life is going to be great here, but it turned out to be all lies.
All right, so we're hearing potentially at least his thesis as to why he left her. He's saying that she made a lot of promises about how great their life was going to be. I think financially is what he's talking about. And since that isn't the case, he is deciding to leave her. Let's hear if he provides more context.
I cannot take it anymore.
Hey. Now, I will say he's also saying that she lied, which is also a problem, of course. It's one thing to lie, which is terrible. It's another thing to lie about something that was important to him, maybe. Let's see what he says.
I recently left, and I have been staying with a friend in town until I figure out what to do next.
My name is Tom. I know Mohamed. I happened to meet him at Walmart one day. We just started talking. We've become really good friends since then.
Daniel is not the right person.
Interesting. So there's nothing wrong with meeting someone at Walmart and befriending them and moving into their house. But we're starting to see a pattern here. And we don't know, and there's no evidence directly, but there's some red flags of some prime con artist material here. Someone who doesn't really care about other people's feelings, doesn't really even register other people's feelings, and will use other people for his own gain. I don't have any evidence of that, but it certainly would explain what's happening. But maybe there's a different explanation. As I always say, psychopaths and people with antisocial personality disorder are pretty rare, and it's rare that you're going to come across someone even on a show like this. So usually the hypotheses I have don't include that, but I wonder in this situation.
The way that she's treating me, it's like not a husband. She's treating me more like a son. She was mean to me a lot. She was disrespectful for me a lot. I tried so many times with her, and she said, okay, she's gonna try to make things better, but she never did.
Interesting. So according to him, she was treating him like a son. It's hard to imagine that, right? But we'll take his word for it, I guess. And that she would talk down to him, and she was mean to him, and he would complain, and she would promise to change, and then she wasn't changing. It's hard to imagine that. But things happen, obviously, behind closed doors, away from the cameras, that we might not be able to imagine.
I was scared that
You wouldn't want me.
I was fighting with her, I like arguing with her. That night, she went to the closet and she took all my clothes and started throwing them outside. So all what I did, I grabbed my suitcase, I put everything inside, I left.
Interesting. So he could be lying, but if he's telling the truth, which we don't know, what would explain that? Well, I would suspect, so there's two hypotheses I would have, and a third one that's pretty unlikely. The third one is he's just completely lying about this whole thing. It's not very likely, but it could be. It's an option. One is that Danielle really does have an anger problem and is mildly abusive to other people, and that part of herself emerges under a different form of stress, maybe when she's not being watched or when she's pushed into a corner, when she feels particularly threatened, and she exhibits that behavior. It might be hard to imagine. It's hard for me to imagine it, but I know enough about humans. I've treated enough people to know that sometimes people exhibit or have behaviors that are hard to imagine seeing when you meet someone in terms of like a certain context. So that's possible. But in that world, so let's say that Danielle is abusive and mean. In that world, I would suspect that he would be at least kind of participating in the conflict, but maybe Danielle is to blame for a lot of it. He was trying to make it work, and she would explode all this time. So there's a possibility that's happening. But the other option is that he is only kind of in the relationship and has always only been kind of in the relationship. I would suspect that he kind of thought, well, maybe this could work. Maybe this could work. Maybe I can make it work. Maybe there's some love that we can build between the two of us. He would achieve some of that love, some of that attachment, some of that bond, but it was never really there, and at least not as much as she was loving him. And that caused him to want to pull away sometimes. Maybe he was a bit of a jerk face to her, not terribly so. She would get hurt by that, and then they would escalate in conflict, and then she would explode, and she would throw all it, he would say something like, I don't even know why I'm in a relationship with you. You're always, nagging me all the time. And she's saying, nagging you, all I'm doing is asking you to talk to me or just hug me or, have sex with me or something. And he says, screw this, I'm leaving. And then he leaves, and then she throws the stuff out of the house. That seems the most likely scenario, where he's kind of trying to make it work, but not really trying to make it work, and it's not really working. He's not really into her. She's getting more upset at him. He's pulling away, and then she explodes with a lot of anger when he exhibits so much rejection of her, and she's very, very hurt. That's my best guess, but maybe we'll get some more data. Hey, deserving listeners, as y'all know, I am constantly recommending that people go to therapy. We all need therapy from time to time. Well, one of the options available that is definitely worth checking out is BetterHelp. If you're looking for a therapist, I would give it a try by going to betterhelp.com danielleandmohamed.com/Kirk. Make sure you use the promo code Kirk because you get 10% off your first month, and it really helps us out. As you watch these videos, I know many of you have been motivated to find your own therapist, which is great because you deserve it. And I know also that it can be hard to find a good fit, find the right one for you. Well, one of the options available in terms of your shopping is to go to betterhelp.com/Kirk. I've been told you can start communicating with your therapist in under 24 hours. You can message your counselor at any time. Plus, you can schedule weekly video or phone sessions. I've also been told that it's often less expensive than in-person therapy, and you should know that this service is available to clients worldwide. So go to betterhelp.com/Kirk to get 10% off your first month today.
I didn't let Danielle know where I living after I left her because I knew that she's gonna show up and do some craziness.
Were you in love with Danielle?
It was like more feeling lonely than looking for someone to be like my partner in my.
Interesting. So he's saying, no, I wasn't in love with her. It was more like I was lonely, meaning that he just wanted to be with someone. Now, it's possible that he did love her and does no longer and has rewritten that history. It's not uncommon to do that when you fall in love and then later on things get tumultuous and you break up. It's not uncommon to rewrite the entire history and think, I was never in love with that person, when actually you were. I don't know if this applies, though, because from the beginning he's been overtly and covertly, seemingly highly ambivalent about his affection for her. So, but it's interesting to hear him say that no, it was more out of just being lonely, which doesn't also make sense because presumably in Tunisia there are other people to be non-lonely with, right?
My life.
Was there ever like any physical attraction?
I didn't have like a girlfriend before or like being with someone before, so it was my first experience. Things are very different in my country, and because I am a Muslim, dating is not the same way you do it here in America.
Interesting. So I think they met when he was 25-ish and maybe 24, and he's saying that he hadn't dated before that. So according to Seattle culture, mainstream Seattle culture, he would be like that of a 14-year-old in terms of his self-awareness about what sort of relationship he wants to be in. Different cultures can be whatever they want to be, but one of the benefits of being Seattle mainstream culture about dating is that you start with, sort of short-term relationships when you're 14, and by the time you're 16, maybe a little bit longer term relationships, 18, a little bit more adult-like relationships. And each time you're learning, oh, okay, this is what I want, this is what I like, this is who I am, this is what usually works for me, this is how I find someone that's compatible with me. And so I wonder if for him that his family or his culture or his situation was such that he was so lonely because he was prevented or somehow situationally unable to have any kind of romantic or close attachment with anyone up until the age of 25. And then he meets someone online who's totally in love with him. And he's like, oh, this feels good. And then he comes to the States. Yeah, I could see that being a legitimate reason as to why all this was happening. Then he gets here. And because he's basically a 14-year-old who's dating, he's like, oh, I don't like this. I mean, because 14-year-olds do that all the time. Oh, my God, yeah, I'd love to be in a relationship with that person. And then literally the next day, nope, I'm out. Maybe that's what happened to him. I could see that, at least it would cohere with what he's saying right now.
And I was thinking maybe the way the person is looking like is not very important as much as how is the person from inside, how that person is going to treat you. But attraction, like physical attraction, it matters a lot. I'm not going to spend my life by myself just.
So if we take him on his word, which who knows, because he could be a con artist, he could be spinning everything. But if we're going on this story, he learned, oh, I guess sexual attraction is important to me. And I didn't know that before because I'd never been allowed to, or situationally was never in a experimental dating relationship until I got married. So, yeah, I could see that happening. And that's unfortunate. Hopefully he can be nice to Danielle, just abandoning her and just leaving her and not telling her where you're at is not cool. If you want a divorce, fine. Just stand up and say, I want a divorce. Don't, go into hiding. What do you think she's going to do? Try to kill you? I don't think so.
Because I had the bad experience with someone. The way I was thinking about it, I thought if my marriage doesn't work out, I will get my divorce and I will go back to my country. But I do like America because I got used to the culture. So I hope I can stay in this country. I see myself here.
Interesting. Okay, so according to him, he's like, well, when things didn't work out, I get a divorce, go back home. But I really like the United States, so I thought I'd try to figure out a way to stay. Okay, so if that's true, then that's true. But we could also imagine a scenario where, at the very least, before he came, he's thinking, well, if things work out, great. But if they don't work out, then I'll get to stay in the States, which is something that I've always wanted to do. So there's a scenario like that. There's even a worse scenario where he thought, no, I do not want to be with her, but I'll marry her. I'll wait the amount of time before I get a green card, and then I'll leave. I wonder, that's a possibility, right? Let me know what you think in the comments if you haven't already, because I'm curious what your take on it. None of us know, because we'd have to be inside of his mind and his heart, and none of us are. All right, well, that does it for that episode. Everyone out there, please take care of yourself, because you deserve it. You really, really do.